All right. Hey, everybody. We made it. Oh, my goodness. So I had a last minute technical issue of hey, the one LinkedIn's not going to go, but it looks like we're broadcasting on LinkedIn. So I think life's good. What I can't see is any comments, though. Hey, there it is. Uh, yeah, Megan's right on there. Awesome. Says, yeah, Megan, we are back. I'm going to try now. In all fairness, I've been a lazy turd. I'll just say it. I've been lazy and really just busy. We're doing other things within the company that I don't want to bore you guys with, but um, we're working on a couple new things that we released, got out the door, and I haven't had time to do a lot of these hubcasts or not hubcasts. So if you notice, we renamed it now, right? To really because hubcast, I would go, hey, we do a hubcast. People are like, what? What is that? Because it's something we made up, right? I mean, now it's a cyber sleuth show, so it makes more sense, at least to me. Am I going to be able to say that? No. It's like a tongue twister just looking at it right now to me, and I know I'm going to mess it up a million times, but that's part of the fun of it. Um, anyway, so hey, welcome back. I know it's been a long time. Yeah, we got I think 11 of you guys hanging out right at the moment, so I appreciate that because considering we haven't done a podcast in Megan, how long has it been? It's probably been easy 4 to 5 months, and man, that makes it sound really bad when I say it out loud. That it's been that long, but I appreciate you guys for coming and hanging out. But I mean, what a great show to come back with. We're going to talk about some phenomenal things, especially, and I know you guys, maybe some of you have heard the term a lot with AI, but putting a different kind of twist on it, right? As it pertains to some e-discovery issues, and how does it impact what you do? How does it help you in your role? So, yeah, Megan says we have done it. I think it was, yeah, early 2024 is our last one. Yeah, it's okay. We'll be all right. But we're going to talk about those things. And so feel free to ask questions. So type it into chat. Now, in all fairness, I think we're broadcasting out to LinkedIn, Facebook, our home channel on YouTube, and X, which I'm starting to get in the habit of calling it X and not Twitter. It's going to take a while, but we can see some of those back. So if you make a comment back to us, some of them I can see. I don't think I can see X right now. Elon charges, I think just to access his API is $45,000 per month. And it's just something we're not going to pay. Sorry, it's not going to happen. We can go without seeing comments come back to us on X why the API costs that much, which I get. He's trying to reduce spam. Anyway, let's get on with this show. So we're not delaying any further. First off, make sure you guys say hi, where everybody's from. I like to kind of get a feel of where everybody's tuning in from, and don't tell me what type of job you have because we don't want your boss to know that you're hanging out in a podcast uh, during the middle of the workday. Right? We call it. We should just start doing like continuing education credits or something like that. That way, it's justified, and we'll issue a cert to you. Yeah, we attended this. It was a talk on AI. Rock on. There you go. And that should be good. All right, let me look at my other button again. You guys got to bear with me. We just like I said redid the entire show scene, and I'm looking for buttons here. Okay, found my button. Cynthia, yeah, you're from California, right on. Sorry, I'll put this up on the screen so people know what in the world I'm talking about here. Pretty awesome. Welcome to the show, Cynthia. Like you normally hang out with us. I appreciate that. But I'm going to bring Brian up right now if I can find the right button. And all right, Brian, make sure you're all set for me here. Catch it. Oop, wrong button, of course. Let's try this one. Nope, let's try this one. Hey, there he is. I knew it was the right button. I knew I was going to screw that up. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm
Good.
excited to talk through some fun stuff. So,
You, I don't know. Did you realize what you were getting into when you said, "Yeah, I'll come on to the podcast here"?
oh, oh, I love it. I'm along for the ride. I think let's see what this journey does. Yeah, let's have fun with it.
Yeah, we,
Uh,
we usually have a lot of fun with it. It's what we used to call it, just in joking, was it's like a late night talk show, a really bad late night talk show, but we do in the middle of the day. So that's kind of a good way to end
I
your
can do that.
Friday, right? It's like, it's Friday. I'm going to get out of work a little bit early today. Unless you're on the West Coast, like Cynthia over there, and then it's kind of midday or beginning of your day still.
She's not quite to lunch yet. I'm in Mountain Time, so we're right on the noon hour. So
there you go.
It's, everyone's saying Ohio and California. I'm in Denver, Colorado. So we just got a big snowstorm, lots of shoveling this morning. So it's a good thing it's Friday. I can kind of recoup over the weekend. But that's I think going all your way. So good luck with that in the next couple of days.
Literally, because I work from home. Obviously, I'm in my office downstairs, and we've had so much snow in Ohio, northern Ohio this year. It's ridiculous. Now, it's nothing probably compared to where you're at, or like North Dakota, South Dakota. They measure snow in feet, right? We still measure in inches here. But I hadn't cleaned my truck off for, I don't know, 4 weeks. So I went out and literally I had 10 inches of snow on my truck, and I'm going like,
You got to get the remote start, so at least your battery, that's the key. Keep that battery going.
I do have a remote start, but after so many days, it just disconnects and doesn't work anymore. I don't know if it's a protection for the battery long term, or I'm not really sure, but literally it's a long time. You don't understand. I haven't probably driven my truck in 2 weeks, if not more.
Come visit us. Go to the airport. Come visit us and see more snow.
How much do you guys have right now?
Denver, we're probably in honestly 6 to 8 inches, but the mountains have been getting many, many feet. If you're into skiing or snowboarding or winter activities, now is the time to hit Colorado. Colorado, mid-February through mid-March, man, that's the time. Everyone comes early, like Christmas and holidays and all that.
Yeah.
It's that early spring is when we get tons and tons of snow. I mean, feet and feet, powder days every day. So if you're into that winter rec stuff, I grew up in the mountains, so I'm very fine-tuned into that calendar schedule. I kind of save and wait until everyone leaves, the state, and then I go up there and enjoy all the good snow.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
I never was a skier, and it's something I've always wanted. I tried. We got these little tiny hills here in Ohio, and my buddy wanted to go, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be a snowboarder. Now, granted, I was much younger, because I can wakeboard. I have boat. I've been wakeboarding, skiing behind boats my whole life since I was old enough to walk. It is much different than getting pulled behind a boat than flying down a hill really fast.
I think the crashing part is different a lot. You're falling into water, you can still get pretty kind of beat up or whatever. But falling down on that ice and snow, it starts to fill up. So I grew up snowboarding, and I officially am retired from that. I cross country ski now. It's a little less impact, a little more my pace. So I'll cruise around on the skinny sticks, as they say. So
that's smart, because I also realized that when you crash, snowboarding or behind a boat, you stop, right? The water stops you, and you come back up and you float. When you're going down a hill and you crash, man, you keep going.
Good luck. You're hoping something stops you at that point. It's great though. We have a lot of great terrain here, and I think the majority of the state is public land, which you just don't see in a lot of places. So you can enjoy it, but very lucky, very lucky. And I do the same. I work from my home, and being able to kind of on a Friday, if it works out, grab your stuff, and 30 minutes you're in the mountains. It's pretty special. It's pretty special. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. Maybe you'll have to actually teach me how to snowboard sometime, because I ended up giving up, and I sat down on my rear end, put the snowboard underneath, and I was like using it to sled myself down.
Take a lesson. Take a half day lesson. Those folks are patient. They know what they're doing. They'll get you up and running. I taught my kids how to do it, and then I officially retired from teaching, because I don't know if you've taught your kids how to do anything, but it's a challenge. And it was one of those where okay, I think my teaching days are. I'll sign you up for lessons. I have great instructors. I'll introduce you to them, but I'll be down in the lounge having a cocktail by the fireplace. That's usually where I'm hanging out these days.
That's a wise man right there. That is wise man speaking.
I've learned over the years. The biathlon, someone said, That is intense. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be. That is cross country skiing. But those guys, wow, they take it to the next level. They go uphill most of the time. By the way, too.
What?
I'm a downhill guy. They go cross country uphill, like
Uphill?
uphill, downhill. Yeah,
Isn't
they're
that why they made like ski lifts and stuff? So you didn't have to do that anymore?
not to geek out on history, but we had 10th Mountain Division here, which was like the whole starting of this like ski infantry, cross country ski stuff. And
Yeah.
you can go up and participate like on the terrain that they trained on and stuff. They're machines. I you know I'm kudos to those folks because I do about I started and I'm like maybe I'll go back to the lodge.
Yeah.
Pattern here, like all hills go down to the lodge, so that's where I'll be.
Yep.
That's
That's
that's great.
that's where it. Like I said, wise man, wise man. I did turn my mic up. I saw someone say that my mic was a little low, so hopefully that helps a little bit. I pegged it out here on this board and then cranked it up in the software again too. So let me know if that fixed it. Like I said, been a few months since we've done one of these, so none of my settings are where they're supposed to be. So I appreciate it.
Awesome.
So I guess tell for the folks that don't know who you are, Brian.
Yeah.
Uh, tell the folks a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, so background is several decades of litigation support specifically to electronic evidence, so eDiscovery. Back in the Wild West days of the 90s, and there are folks in this industry that go back further than me. No, this isn't a competition. I'm just saying, in the 90s when I came on board, it was pretty Wild West. No one really knew what to do with electronic documents.
Yeah.
To the tune, I remember printing out thousands and thousands of files just so we could scan them because that's the technology we had was we knew how to scan and OCR and all that, but we didn't know what to do with electronic documents. So my background is kind of writing that evolution of those Wild West days all the way up until where we are today, which is phenomenal. The technology available today, either through my company Index.io or any several of them, right? It's just astounding and almost magical of what we can do with data. And I've thrown myself into that circus. I love it. I love all the aspects of it. I love pushing the envelope on what we can do with it. There's always a practical journey of I have A and I need to get to B. That's never really changed over the years. What's changed is how fast we can go, how big it can go, cost effective we can get, how easy it can be to use. You don't have to be a certified database administrator to run some of the technologies that are out there. But early on, only real technical trained folks could kind of run these operations because they were not easy to use and they were usually, you'll hear the term best of breed. They kind of pick and chose bunches of technology and merged them together into a workflow. That's been my background. I founded Index.io in 2012. We were a SaaS-based company. We've been around a long time. I probably hate to admit we're probably the best kept secret in the industry, which is not what you want as a
No.
but but we have thousands of attorneys that utilize our platform. We do cases that literally are 10 files, 10 Word documents. Imagine that, right? Process it, base label it, produce it, make your PDF, do whatever you need to do, all the way up to we just concluded a project that was 50 terabytes, so 50,000 gigs of data. It scales up and down, and the same search speeds and the same stuff. And that's where my passion is like how do we bring that to someone who has a problem? How do we bring value to them? Right now, obviously, AI is the big buzz out there, right? And we're embracing that. I think there's two paths in our world. Either you're defending against it, hey, you don't need that because we have people and we have these resources, and then they're not wrong. But there's also the flip side, which is, hey, we have to embrace this. This brings us value because of these reasons. And I think the teams that are going to be the most successful in any industry is who blends that the best, who can take the expertise and the resources of the human loop and merge it with these AI technologies to get those efficiencies.
Right.
And if you're all in on one or the other, I think you're going to struggle a bit. If you're just purely AI, I think you're not bringing the value you could to your end users. If you're just human resources, I get it, but I don't think you're going to be able to bring the efficiencies and the scalability that you could with some of these if you incorporated some of these tools. And I've been talking with a lot of companies out there, and you'd be surprised their approaches all across the board. And I don't know if we'll know successes or failures for years, right? We'll kind of see like what model wins out. I'll say that the model that we are adopting is very much in embracing AI technologies, but also compartmentalizing them so that their expectations are kind of tempered. Meaning when a user comes in, we're not going to try to pretend that AI is going to come in and just fix everything out and tomorrow you'll have everything you need in your case, which is kind of the feelings you get out there with some of the marketing stuff. We're going to be very practical and help set expectations, because there's so much power in these tools, and they do bring value, but you gotta keep it in check. There still needs to be this human leap, especially in eDiscovery or legal documents where you're verifying, right? I mean, I don't think we'll ever get away from a verification step, which requires the expertise, which requires the knowledge, the industry knowledge to be there. But that's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, I kind of look at AI very similar to, my background's in digital forensics, and it's an eDiscovery always. I'll just be honest, it scared the crap out of me, so I avoided it like crazy because I didn't understand it. I just avoided it in my younger days. But what you just explained is very similar to. It's like even though we're using tools and very sophisticated software to find answers in even digital forensic evidence, it's no different than AI sifting through mounds of data that you've brought in. You still have to do an important piece, and you just said it was verify that data was accurate, that what it found was in how it phrased it, because AI tends to do that, put things in colorful ways sometimes. It was accurate as to what was the way it was said in the original document. Was that an accurate representation of it?
Exactly. And sorry, one of my lamps just kind of adjusted. So if I get bright, let me know. That's it. That's it, exactly. It's a tool. It's I think like any tool we use, if you lean on just that tool, then you're going to hit limitations of it, right? Yeah. And it'll do what it can do, but you're going to hit limitations. I think AI is a tool. I love the capability and the future capability it has for forensic data. Mm-hmm. I think forensic investigators are going to have a heyday with AI, because what it does really, really well is identify patterns, and it identifies anomalies, but it does it on huge sets of data. Meaning I can collect hard drives and emails and phones. I can pull all that data in and immediately do what's called unsupervised learning. That's a fancy name for clustering, right? It'll immediately kind of say, hey, all this stuff resembles the same thing. All of this stuff resembles the same thing. This thing out here is weird, right? I don't know what this little group is, but then the investigators can go in and look at that and say, oh my gosh, yeah, this is irrelevant stuff, right? This is fantasy football, and this is system files or whatever. This little group that it found, this is a nugget, right? We might have found some pieces of it, but this thing grouped all of it together for us, right? So we can take this whole little group and pass this on to the next team. That part, I think, is really going to accelerate what forensics are doing, because that's a manual process right now. That's expertise, which is great, because you're going to need that to verify what the AI does. And what we're doing with our forensic partners is helping them bridge that technology that gap, mm-hmm. because the platform scales up. Our platform is providing a lot of these file level details post collection that can be used for this analysis, right? This exploratory data analysis, EDA. And then the idea then is you get your hands wrapped around it, and you're better informed to communicate to your user, this is what we found or not found. We didn't find any evidence of X, Y, Z. Or, in addition to what you requested as an end user, we also found these other things, a consultative piece, which is what the expertise of these teams really do, right? They don't just collect and say, here's your data. There are those folks out there, but the
Right.
real successful folks in forensic investigation area are the ones that can then bring their knowledge and consulting power and say, hey, we collected your data and we did a high level analysis of it, but we also did a deep level. And guess what? We can tell you about this data that you need to be aware of so that you can prepare from this point forward, knowing this information, right? And I'm being real general because it's case to case. It's, those details really do change case to case. And I know on the title we had Deepseek, right, as part of the AI, because there's ChatGPT, there's Olama. I mean, there's a ton of them. Deepseek kind of rocked the world a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Made
caught
my
the
Nvidia stock prices drop, by the way. Yeah.
they're back. I think they're back, but yeah, Nvidia took a hit because in essence, for those that don't know, and I'll give a real quick summary of why that was such a big announcement. When DeepSeek released that they had a model that competed toe to toe with the latest model from OpenAI, that's not a big news. Competitors do it all the time. Pepsi and Coke, right? Hey, we have a soda and they have a soda. That wasn't the big news that there was someone that could go toe to toe with OpenAI. The news was two elements to their announcement. One, they did it for a fraction of the cost, meaning OpenAI did it for billions of dollars. They did this whole thing. DeepSeek did it for, I want to say, like 6 million, which 6 million to me is a lot of money. But when you're talking about these models and what it took to get from start to finish, 6 million is a rounding error on these other models. So that alone made it, kind of pulled it in perspective of maybe this is more open to everybody capabilities rather than just the folks that have billions of dollars to invest in this and get it across the finish line. That was statement two, like, oh my gosh, how did they do it so cost effectively? Two, they open sourced it. And that honestly is what really sent ripples through, because when you open source technology, it's now peer reviewed. Everyone, I downloaded, I looked at it. Our developers looked at it. Other developers across the world are looking and sifting through this, and they're seeing exactly kind of how the cookies are made, or how the sausage is made, right? Like that we know, and we can critique it and say, wow, this really concerns me, or this is how it can be peer reviewed on that level. The other ability is it lets companies like me utilize that technology in a deeper way, not to play on words, but a deeper way, and keep our costs down to our end users. Because as you can imagine, it's impossible prior to bring AI technologies, not impossible, but impractical to bring AI technologies for folks that only have 10 files. The cost ratio on it doesn't make sense in any level, right? Why would I pay for this stuff on 10 files? By this open source and this available technology being to startups and to small companies and to tech companies and not OpenAI billion-dollar companies, it allows us to bring them incorporate them, and then offer these services at a real market price. And price is price, but it's a huge factor when we're talking about these cases and these projects, because these legal cases may be worth, I'm making up a number, it may be worth $50,000, right? They're not going to spend $40,000 on AI tools for a $50,000 case, right? And go all the way down to $100. They're not going to spend $50 on a $100 case. And so there has to be a practical business element to this, which is we're excited about, because one of the mottos, Kevin, that we've had from the beginning is we bring big data technologies to everyday cases, right? It's like our pitch line, commercialize that, right? That's a sticker, stamp it. But it's true. That was one of our mottos, because we wanted to even the playing fields. If you're a forensic company or a law firm or an eDiscovery provider, and you're not one of the big three, then your costs are a big part of your model. Like, you have a handful of team members and you got to capitalize on them to give the best resources and value to your end users, and keep the lights on. And so, and when you have this David Goliath model, which, technology has always been,
right,
AI is a good equalizer, and especially when it's open source like it is. Now, let's talk about some downsides to the AI before we dive into how it actually helps the eDiscovery part.
Yeah, I also want to hit on some misconceptions with Deepseek too, right?
Yeah.
Because there's basically two versions. I hate to call them versions, but there's the app that you could go download on your phone, and then there's also one that you can host independently away from
Yes.
Beijing, essentially, right? Because I know that was a lot of concern, and there's a million videos out there. This one guy, I can't remember his name. I'll put it in the show notes after we're done, but he was doing reviews on the app that you could download, and they say, oh, it never touches China. They have it in their user. No, 100%. It reaches out to Beijing, communicates, comes back. But this isn't the model we're talking about. That's the
That's
one that if you're on your app or you go to the website, yes, absolutely, it's touching Beijing. But now I'm going to hand it over to you so you can explain the part I
yeah,
don't necessarily always get.
that is a very good point. In that I can't say I would recommend using most of the AI apps. Okay, and that because that data is sent to those entities. Um, And if you look at the fine print, that data is now theirs, right? They get to
Yep.
do all kinds of fun stuff with it. And so in our space where you're talking about very sensitive data, very confidential, privileged data, it's a non-starter. You can't do that.
Right. Right.
You shouldn't anyway. So I would really raise flags if that were the case. Um, Now, am I the one that will hop on a chat GPT and say, hey, give me an outline for a 10-minute presentation on, making pumpkin pie? Yes, I'm going to do that because I don't care if
Yes.
ChatGPT has my outline on pumpkin pie.
That's right.
Uh, right. But the local element is critical here because what they've done, and by the way, the large language model is how you're running local. So the LLM, and almost all of the LLMs have various stages of it. So there's like, um, not to sound like too technical, but there's like $1.5 billion points of data, and then there's like a 7 billion points of data, and then a 14 and a 40, and I think the DeepSeek R1 Max is like 671 billion. Big. It's a
Yes.
400 plus gigabyte package of data. So to run it, I don't have anything that could run that big model. I'll tell you that it'll literally cost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of hardware to bring that into memory, to fire it up and actually leverage it. Now
Right.
that's why NVIDIA did so well, because they provide that run, that they provide the hardware that lets you do these
That's
models.
right.
Now I can run the 40 billion though on my local machine. It's not great, and they call it tokens per second. I think I'm getting 3 or 4 tokens per second, which is fine. It's fun. Um, but that's that. Just to kind of give you like how AI works, it's
Hmm.
all local for me. It's all local, meaning I'm not sending anything. I can unplug from the internet, and it would still perform the exact same because it's not authenticating, it's not
Right.
verifying. It's all ran local. In fact, as weird as that sounds, it's not just local. Let me if I can pull this up. Do you see this guy right here?
Oh yeah.
So this is a 2 terabyte SSD. This has all of the DeepSeek LLMs on it. So
Really?
all LLMs are listed in here in a directory, and I actually have my app point to this SSD, not even my actual computer hard drive. So when I fire it up, it points to here, does all of its queries here, accesses all the language models here. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, I can plug this into my laptop as well, or to another machine, and it's configured to kind of use this external resource. And SSD, what is it, 3.2 USB? It's very fast, so
Fast.
it's going to be fine. But that's how kind of paranoid I am with it. I want to be able to like rip the power off of the wall and be like everything's shut down. Same thing with this, right? I can pull this out and go. Now, selfishly, I also put the large 400 gig, or that 671 billion point LLM on here
Holy cow.
because I'm a geek that way. I can't
Uber
access.
nerd. Love it.
Who knows? Maybe I'll win the lottery and all of a sudden I can buy all that stuff and be like, oh, I already have the language model. Let's go. Uh, Plus, it's fun to say like, yeah, I have it. I have that.
That's right.
I nowhere could open it, but I have it. Um, so there are very, very good positions you have to make sure you take when you're looking at these AI solutions. Again, I don't think I would recommend anything external like an app unless you're using it for benign reasons, right? Like I said, they could tell me some historical facts or help me generate an outline or something that you're okay talking to someone literally on a podcast with, because that's kind of how you're giving it away.
Right.
If you're doing more, it definitely needs to be in-house or local. And that's our model. So any of the technologies that we use in that capacity are centralized to our environment. They are not going out and they're not doing anything. They're very focused and secure and set away. I don't even think they could, because the way our network's architect, it couldn't even if it wanted to. There's no way it could do any of those things.
Right. Right. And that's,
But
I'm sorry, I took you off your original segue because I knew that was the point that would come up. So I'm like, let's just get this now before you segue into what you guys and how you handle that data. And go there.
If you're very technical and you want to run something local, look at Olama. Olama is, it's pretty straightforward, user friendly. They have a download. It's an app that runs local, but it's something that'll connect to these large language models locally. But it gives you kind of a chat interface to it, so that I still use command line and I go through the terminal and talk to this thing.
Yeah.
But it gives you a UI if you want it, but it's local. It's a local thing, and you can download all kinds of different language models that are out there. So like the Meta stuff, the llamas, there's like 3.2 billion and all that, or Deepseek. What you have to be careful with, and why I play around with a lot of them, is because there is an inherent bias in these language models, and there's no real way to get away from it. It's just how they're trained, how they're organized. I'm going to condense that so it's not real super technical, but if anyone wants to talk about it more in depth after this, hit me up. I could talk about it all day. We talked about it for half an hour, Kevin, before we joined today. The bias of these models are why we need the human loop. So the human loop is the piece that says, well, wait a minute, that's a perspective and that's an answer, but that's really skewed to one side or another, or not necessarily generalized to what we need. They all have it. They try to do things to mitigate it, to reduce it. But it's something to be cognizant of, right? It's a tool. It's not perfect yet. It'll get better over time and all those fun things. But when you hear of AI biased, it's because of how it was trained and what data it was trained on. And one of the things, for instance, with Deepseek, is if you use whatever model you want to use, you could go online and do what's my cake recipe. But if you ask it certain things about regional government in that section of the world, it plays dumb. It's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Like there's nothing, we don't even have a government in this section of the world, right? And it's really biased because they've purposely trained it because of regulations I'm sure they have and criteria that they're under. But that is like one glaring example of how these models can, still be funneled to a bias, purposely or not purposely.
Right.
And that's why the human loop. I'll say the human loop over and over, because that's really the human piece that's coming in to kind of check the reality of this stuff. Right?
And ultimately, it's a human that's giving it these training models, right? The system's not perfect because there's a human behind it, right? Teaching it or giving it the volume. It's up to us to keep that both sides kind of open.
That's right.
Of it's like, hey, there's another side to this. I need to know that as well. So I just had I have conversations with ChatGPT. So it's like, it gets deep, man. I'm talking back and forth with it. And I actually called it biased the other day because of some of the things that it was telling me. I'm like, hey, you got to show the other perspective. And it said I was right. I want to put this on record. AI said I was right. So there we go. That's probably the only time. My wife has never said that, but AI did.
No bias in that. No bias in that. The fun part of it though is it does give you access to this scalable info in real-time feedback. I mean, that's why in natural language, right? That's why it's really changing how we do stuff, because it's not like I'll go back to the technical DBA. You don't have to be a technical person to say, hey, AI person, thing, can you do this and give me these details and blah, 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 and construct it. And then they'll give you back and be like, okay, give me a more concise reply than that, right? And then they'll give you more concise reply. And it's natural language. And that's why it's revolutionizing.
Yeah.
Because it's open to everybody now. You don't have to be an expert. Anyone in your company, anyone in your firm, anyone in your neighborhood can leverage these things without really any training. The one thing I'll say is I think we're seeing the birth of a new skill set that I'll probably add it to my LinkedIn just for fun because I'm really into this AI stuff. But it's the prompt engineer, right? Have you ever heard that term?
No.
Prompt engineer, and I don't know. We'll land on some title, but in essence, it's just someone who's very adept at being able to construct the question to get the response they need from AI. So here's what I mean. A lot of these models are tuned to be certain casual or certain professional or certain witty, or make this funny. Your prompt, you can actually pre-prompt that and say, hey, I want to, give me a joke that's a dad joke that's for a professional office space, so it needs to be more formal. Avoid it being about the C-level employees, blah, 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 right? So you're prompting all this stuff in. And then the better you are at that, the better the response is, the higher quality for you it is. And so there is a whole kind of, even though it's natural language, there still is a language that we are all going to need to become proficient at to kind of get this out. Now, some of the stuff is pre-wired, like some of these apps, like ours, for instance, is like, we're like concise, no humor, right? We don't need someone in our, an attorney accessing our forensic investigator accent, and then we're like, hey, pal, like, here's your response. Like, no, it's like,
no attorney jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be real about this. This is for business, and you can say that, like, this is for replying to a group of business people, and it takes that context in, and then phrases the reply back to you accordingly. And you could try it. You could try it out and just be like, tell me a joke, right? And it'll tell you a joke, and then say, okay, tell me a joke that is appropriate for children that are under the age of 10. Now that's a simple prompt change, but as you get at this thing, you kind of preempt it. You already know what it's going to kind of do. So you start to engineer those prompt questions right at the beginning. And good technology interfaces know their audience, and they already kind of they already have a list of this stuff built in to be like, I know we're not going to be. I don't want any jokes. I don't want humor. I want it to be concise. I want it to be factual. I don't want it to be any drawn opinions. I want you to cite your references. All these things you can pre-prompt. So when someone says, tell me about this document or this company, it's immediately spewing it back to you in that format. The Deepseek piece, again, just to kind of separate it out as, and then we can move on to like what the eDiscovery stuff does, because I know we're getting up there in minutes. But like any of these models, try them out, test them out. I do recommend you do local. If you need help, just look at local install of LLM, and there's 100 YouTube videos out there that'll walk you through it. If you really get in a pinch, feel free to reach out to me. I'll Zoom with you, and we'll get you squared away. But start asking it information, things like that. But then also ask it about current events. And the reality is, it's not going to know anything about current events, right? And the reason is because that model was built 2 years ago.
Right.
So there's a point in time where it kind of falls off the table as far as factual stuff. Now there's a thing called RAG. I always butcher this. So, are you familiar with RAG?
I'm not familiar with RAG. I use for current, well, as much as it can be, because it does get its information from X. I use Grok to catch. It's catching and watching all the tweets at one time as they occur. So it's constantly adding more to its set, which I find fascinating that it's able to do that.
And
And
that's a form of RAG as an acronym, retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval
really,
augmented generation. And what that means is those folks at OpenAI and Deepseek and other places have built this huge large language model. And through retrieval augmentation, which is meaning external documents,
mm,
fine-tuning that big model. So I don't need to spend billions or even 6 millions to make this. Um, I can augment it with very relevant data or documents that are important to me or to my user's case or to the collection, or it is the collection itself. And then it'll use actually that new information to orchestrate responses. So that's called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. And it's a key element of making purpose-built AI. Otherwise, you could just log into ChatGPT and do the same thing as the next person and the next person and the next person. To make this thing really specialized into our industry, like eDiscovery or forensic investigations, you need this RAG model that can go out and say, okay, in addition to this good base that we have, we're going to offset it with another terabyte of new information. That information now it's great because it can be referenced immediately in the responses.
yeah,
Why did I respond this? Because there was a memo, or there was an email, or there was a text, or there was a voicemail, or all four. That's why I replied this way, because this new information that I've drawn a connection to gives me this response. And that's magic. That part is it I don't want to say could we as humans not get there. Of course we could, but this thing will get there same day, where it may take us days, weeks, months to kind of draw that same conclusion.
right.
And we may be prone to leave out that sixth or seventh piece of data. We found five, but we didn't find the sixth, seventh, and eighth piece that may be important to do everything else. So RAG, keep that for the listeners. You know, if you're using AI stuff or you're using products, see if they're using the ability with the retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, and most likely they are. But that ensures that it's using your data, right? It's
Mm,
using, like, as a company, it's
that's
using
interesting.
all of your user documents and manuals and stuff to answer these questions, not just a generic employment agreement. It's
Sure.
using your employment agreements. So
It's not pulling something it's learned prior to seeing your information. It's using that data that you just fed it.
that's right. And it's
Makes
still
sense.
using some prior, right? I mean, it's still got an idea what of a employee contract is, but it's fine tuning those responses based on your actual employee contracts. And why is that important for digital investigation? One, it's going to cluster up all the employee contracts together. It's going to cluster up all of the technical manuals together. All the Pizza Friday emails together, like all that stuff, right? It's going to compartmentalize that. For eDiscovery, it's going to let you become kind of more intimate with access to your data, meaning
Mm,
the data that was collected. I'm using the machine learning and AI on that data, and uh, that's what you really care about. You collected a gig, 100 gig, a terabyte, 100 terabytes. You want to access and ask questions about that set of data, and so you do that through RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. Um, and I'm so vested in learning about this stuff, and I want it to sound, and it is magical, but I can't. I'm going to keep coming back to know its limitations.
right.
Like, kind of keep in mind, set your expectations. It's a tool. Um, Use your experience to say, I'm comfortable with it doing this for me and helping me with this. And maybe you draw the line here, and everyone's going to be a little different on what their experience is, but make sure you throw yourself into that process. um, we have in our platform machine learning, which is AI, right?
Hmm.
Most of AI has a machine learning element in it, and it the learning part is the human element, right? So we can cluster up and say, hey, Kevin, we think all of these documents are privileged based on what we know what a privileged document is. We think all of these documents are confidential because of the language that's confidential in there, right? As you make decisions, or their users go through, they click on documents that are saying, yep, this is privileged, or I verify that. Yes, this is confidential. I verified that. This is responsive. I verified that. That's the learning part, right? So we're validating or reinforcing what that AI algorithm did, because it'll take, I don't want to say a guess, it'll organize the data into what it thinks, and then the user interaction is validating it, and it'll reshuffle the deck. It'll be like, oh, I thought that was one, but they're telling me it's not, so I got to get rid of that assumption and let's reshuffle the deck. And I got better, and I get better, and I get better.
Nice.
So we talk to a lot of entities and companies that provide this user review services, and they're all a little nervous because AI, they feel, may come in and just be like reviewers, like, oh, I looked through the documents and this is privileged. And that I don't think that's going to happen. I don't believe that'll happen to the tune of replacing anybody. I think if you keep human in the loop, you're validating, you're verifying, and it should be faster, right? I mean, that's the key. Why you do this, unless you get benefit, it should let that process be faster. It should let your company take on more projects because now you can get through more data faster. And ultimately, the end client, there should be a cost effectiveness to it because you are limiting time, and time is money, and all those things. So there should be a way for businesses to thrive integrating these tools, but that machine learning element still requires humans, and that's how our platform works. So for instance, Kevin, if you loaded data forensically collected, and we've done all the fun stuff up front with it, we've clustered, we've identified groups, and ultimately date filtering, all the forensic investigative stuff, and we've carved out this little nugget of data from the big group, and we want to throw that at the legal team. Hey, here's what we think is the highest relevancy set to what your case is about. From there, they need to interact with the data, right? We can do some pre-privilege and pre-responsive and based on some assumptions and all that. But as they go through and they verify and they check off and they find new things, and this is a hot doc, and this actually isn't privileged or whatever, feeds it back into the machine, and it's a safety net at that point is how we see it. Is there things that are slipping through the cracks that maybe we wouldn't have found? Let's focus on them. Hey, thanks for bringing our attention to it. Are there things that that we made a decision on that fall outside of what it thought? Well, okay, let's take a look. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we thought this was, because there's a lot of non-relevant data that ultimately gets produced, right?
Right. Right.
And that's cost, that's time, that's all kinds of stuff. But that's our take on how to integrate some of these AI technologies. It's in collaboration with the legal team, so that legal expertise can be fed back into these algorithms for better and better and better results, right? Yeah. And it's a living thing. And to see, when you're talking about a case that has 50 terabytes of data, that's a real big impact. To be able to just carve out big chunks of data, big chunks of review stuff, just get rid of this, or bulk coding. Yes, you know what? It got this right. This is all not responsive. This is all privileged. It could be just as effective on 1,000 documents, though. And that's the difference where we're bringing it, right? We can scale up. We love 50 terabyte projects. Who doesn't? But we also love 1,000 documents or 100 documents. You can still get the summarization. Like, tell me about this document. What am I seeing? Oh, it's a contract. It's between these folks. It's this amount. It was executed on this day. It was a 20-page contract that I just condensed down. And if I agree with that, it now knows that type of thing is responsive or not responsive, or privileged or not privileged. And all of a sudden, as you go through, your 100 chips down into where you only need to look at 20 of them. You only need to look at 30 of them. And then you can quickly be like, agree, and move on.
Right. And it sounds like to me that, again, I haven't done an actual investigative case in quite a long time, but it sounds to me like the eDiscovery side is much more advanced in its AI than what the actual forensic side is currently. Of course, I'm not up to speed on all the latest tools, but a lot of the tools I think in forensics are still relying on, hey, we know if you push this button, we're going to go get this evidence because it's blocked typically and it lives right here. Or we know this is browser day. We're just going to spit it out to you. It's not doing, at least not that I've seen, doing the review part and helping feed that back to the examiner that I've seen. What's your take on that?
That's a great take, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I don't think the tools have been specialized for forensic investigation and collection yet. But I will tell you, any of the forensic folks that are out there, there are tools that I know of right now that are available to you that we use that would be very helpful in forensic investigation. And they're helpful in validation. They're helpful identifying outliers. They're helpful in organization. Um, a lot of the forensic tools have things built in that also do this, but this is different data, different platform type of stuff to where you can validate phone data and email data and server data and website data, you name it, all in the same bucket. So it's drawing relationships on a bigger scale that's really kind of more difficult for us to do. So the short answer is yes, you're absolutely right. I don't think there are a lot of resources for the forensic investigator community off the shelf. But there are some very good data analytic tools that are AI driven that can be leveraged in their workflow. These are things that do correlation maps, right? To where all of a sudden, if you see a correlation map between two custodians, that may augment how you're collecting one or both of them. Hey, we got to collect everything for Brian, and we're just going to collect Kevin's email. Well, if you see a strong correlation between Brian and Kevin, then you may want to decide to go after all of Kevin's documents because the data shows that Brian's important, therefore there are correlation that Kevin's important. These things, that's one example, right? There's linear regression models that show for everything that happened here, this other thing happened, right? So if we need to narrow down and focus our collection, we can narrow down one or two of those points, and it would have a cascading effect through the rest of the data, meaning there, again, a correlation between these data elements. There's, contextual anomaly stuff that maybe just topical. Like, why all of a sudden is this eDiscovery company talking about pumpkin pies? Like, is that a code for something? I mean, this is just such a weird anomaly set of data that it's worth investigating, right? And and if hopefully it turns out to be like it's not responsive, or you can deal with it in some way, and it gives you value. It gives you confidence in what to do next with it, or do nothing with it. But those tools, I think, are available, and what we're trying to do is integrate upstream with our forensic partners to say, hey, let's help you get some of these tools, because we know how to read this information right back from you to where you can hand off this package to your user, and we all say the same story, right? We all have the same details. We're all working with the same stuff, to where there's not confusion where all of a sudden this data disappears, or we're coming up with something that you didn't see. That's happened before, where we have some of these tools and we see some of these anomalies, or we see some of these correlations, and then we go back and we're like, hey, you really should explore Kevin because of this correlation he has with this other custodian. We would love more to talk with the forensic investigators to say, hey, forensic investigator, here's what we're seeing collaboratively. I think we should reach out to your user, and we pitch this rather than us go to the user, because then all of a sudden there's a disconnect. Why didn't my forensic guy know this already? Right. And we've all been in that workflow. That's no one's goal. Our goal is, how do all these boats rise together? And it's from sharing these steps and these details from start to finish. We work with a lot of forensic investigating companies, collection companies. Some of them work very independent from us. Great, I get it. That's the relationship they want. Some of them really bring us in as like co-consultants, so that when we model this workflow through, forensic investigators are happy because it's a seamless handoff. We're happy because it's a seamless handoff. The end users are happy because they got from A to B the most effective way and the most confident way. So the short answer is, that was a really long way to say, yes, those tools I don't think are specifically designed for forensics. They're specifically designed for exploratory data analysis, which is part of forensics. So it's no, and I'll drop some in there, like RapidMiner. I don't know are you familiar with RapidMiner?
No, I'm pretty much AI stupid. That's why I have smart people like you on to ask questions, a million of them.
It's a no code AI platform. Play around. All the folks that are on here.
What's
Olay
the
Boy 555 and Hash Hunter and Cynthia. Like go look up Rapid Miner. They have tons of videos on it, but look at some of the stuff it can do. Look at some of the example workflows that it can build, and tell me that it couldn't help you do some analysis on your data. It totally can, right? It can absolutely do it. And I'm pretty proficient in Rapid Miner, so there's other tools too. If you don't like it for whatever reason, let me know. Reach out to me. We'd love to have a conversation with you and get you started, right? Because again, our goal is not to silo this data, to silo this knowledge. Our goal is to be like, hey, how do we help Kevin? Because when we help Kevin, then one, we're getting better data back to us. The client's getting, or the user's getting better data. And then Kevin and I now have a relationship that we know we're going to help each other out. And if I have forensic stuff that I need, I know Kevin's got the tools and he can get it done. And if Kevin's like, oh, I have some eDiscovery stuff, hopefully they reach out to us, right? And they're like, hey, we have a good partner because our handshake is strong and we can get that data from beginning to end. But look at Rapid Miner. I'll probably be doing, honestly, a presentation on it at some point, and it's not really eDiscovery specific. It's more just data analysis specific. So it's going to be a little outside of Index.io's kind of core value piece, but it's in the spirit of sharing that knowledge, because anyone in our space that deals with data needs to be able to understand, how can I analyze it?
Sounds like a
So
good webinar you should do with us,
yeah,
and we're
yeah,
happy
maybe,
to host it or
yeah,
put the videos up and
all
make
right,
them available to people. Yeah, we'll push them out.
let's do that.
Is
I'm down.
is it from a
Yeah.
company called Altair or Altair? I
Yeah,
don't know.
it
Okay,
is.
yeah,
It
I'm
is.
looking at it.
There is an educational, or I think there's a free kind of
They do have
test it
some
out.
trials on here that I see. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
check.
I'll put this link here in the chat real quick.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And the other one is Nime, KNIME. That's very much the same type of app. Just slightly, they do the same thing. There's slightly different UI and libraries and stuff, but yeah, check those out. I like I said, there's no upside, for me on sharing that knowledge, other than I respect that the folks that joined us today want to expand their knowledge, right? They want to learn about these things, and I geek out when you're around other people that kind of have that same motivation. So
right,
check out
right.
Rapid Miner. Like I said, there's tons of tutorial. I think there's even a tutorial with them that will walk you through, like, here's some sample data and
Yeah,
load it up and
their site
do
was
all.
loaded. Yeah, loaded of stuff. But
Yep.
again, I
Yeah.
think the weakness is, again, I've done uh, very little eDiscovery stuff. Like I said, I'm eDiscovery dumb, so I stay away from it. But open source intelligence or the OSINT community, this is a no brainer for them to be able to help organize patterns and information they see. I see there's a lot of room for advancement. Of course, that's where my skill set is on the digital forensic side, is to maybe train the models of the patterns that they should look for in a particular type of case, what it should be helping evaluate, right? That data that's there. And I don't think we've scratched the surface as much on that side. If somebody listening knows, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this, over the summer when it's nice and warm, comment down below, somewhere in the comments, whether you're whatever platform that you're on. I see usually all the comments. I would like to get your opinion on it. I know Brian would for sure.
Yeah.
So reach out to Brian. Brian, are you comfortable giving an email out
Yeah.
over live social networks?
Out into the great. Send it to. It's a little more controlled. ESI at indexed.io. So ESI at indexed.io. And you see in the chat that it's indexed.io. That's our domain. So we get a lot of like indexed.io.com kind of, because people are just hardwired to .com or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But we are one of those oddballs that ends in .io. So send me an email. I monitor that email. Would love, like I said, any conversation you guys want to have about it. If it's hey, what else was that other tool? I can send it to you, or or what have you. If you want to do a Zoom, I can help you install the stuff too. That's how much I geek out on it. Is I don't have a ton of free time, but I'll make time because people who want to advance themselves in that area, I'm all for it. So
I'm going to call you out here, Brian, because we're pre-show, right? We're talking before we go live, obviously, to make sure everything's working and kind of get the feel. And I don't even know how the topic came up. We got talking about nerdy stuff that we do, and I'm going to show this little tiny thing that I have here. And then if you don't mind, I want you to show yours. All right. It's not I'll show mine, you show yours, kind of weird thing going on. But I pulled this thing up. I did a little bit of programming on my gas fireplace upstairs, and I have it working with Alexa, right? Sorry if I kicked anybody's unit off just now by saying that a name, but and it quit working. So I created another one. Anyway, it's working now and I'm all happy and stuff. And he goes, yeah, I love geeking out on that stuff. He pulls up this thing. Look at this.
Yeah, let me see here. So this is an RFID chip reader that reads this thing. This is a speaker. This is a little screen that displays buttons, SD card, microphone. So yeah,
awesome.
Against the to give you an idea of what that does. By the way, I have a 12-year-old daughter. She's in middle school. They're not allowed to touch their phones throughout the day, which I'm on board with. It's a locker room, or it's a locker voicemail recorder. So she passes these little out things to her friends. They walk by her locker. They hit it. Beep. Hey, Isabel, you want to have lunch today? You want to go to the recess or whatever? And it records 20 seconds. And then she opens her locker and she sees, I have 3 messages, and she plays them. So it's a locker answering machine that I programmed, and this is the prototype. It's all been.
I am surprised you haven't had the bomb squad come and knock on your door, going, "What in the world did you put in your daughter's locker?"
It doesn't look like that. It looks more. It's a lot cuter, like it's a board. It's cleaned up and what have you. But if they came into my office space, they'd probably ask me a lot of questions. Yeah, because I have those breadboards like all over the place. But I geek out. I'm into that now. You tie that in with AI, and now you have some crazy stuff. Because there are AI agents that you could say, well, take that recording and summarize it and text it to me, right? And that could be the next step because she could log into her school Wi-Fi and be like, hey, I'm just going to have this thing texted to me and be like, oh, there's a summary. Someone wants to play at recess, which is insane to think a 6th grader would have that. But,
Right. I think we've just scratched the surface as far as we've come. Just in the short, think about the last just 2 years of AI and how far it's come and how much awesome stuff that it's able to do. We're scratching the surface on its capabilities.
We have made so much grounds over the last decade and a half to think that we really started in the early 1900s with AI and AI algorithms, and it was all more statistical analysis stuff. And then they're what they call the deserts, right? All of a sudden they'll have the winter or the desert where nothing happened for decades. And then someone will pick it up and they'll make a breakthrough on something, and then it'll be a desert and there'll be nothing happening for decades. We definitely have come out of that. I think we talked about in NVIDIA. I think our hardware and our machines are letting us do it. We can really kind of get our hands wrapped around it. It's not theoretical stuff anymore. We can actually compute it. We can actually run it. It's exciting. I think where we're going to go in the next 12, 24 months, 5 years, 10 years is going to be magical. I really do. Oh, speaking of which, I drove yesterday. I flew back from Phoenix to Denver last night. In Phoenix, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the Phoenix area, but they have cars with no drivers. And I took a car from my hotel, driverless car from my hotel to the airport, out onto the freeway, took a right on red, did all these things, and I have video of it. I was like, okay, first of all, this exists, so I'm a tech guy. I'm definitely taking a driverless car. I have to. It cost me $11. So it was crazy. The future's here. Oh, I think you're on mute.
I am. Yeah. Sorry. I was coughing. I tried to mute my how terrified. I'd have been terrified. I'd have been amazed equally. I'd been filming everything, but I'd also been like, please do not kill me. I've seen these movies.
There was initially this is happening moment. Like, I guess this is happening. But then there became like kind of, I must be just a piece where I am in life, because I was kind of like, cyber computer take the wheel, and filmed it, and we looked around, and they got a lot of looks as we're walking, going down the road and whatnot. Sent the video, FaceTime with my wife, and was like, hey, our insurance policies are up to date, you're good, trust me on this. We're squared away. But
Right.
yeah, it was really amazing, because it wasn't just like in a parking lot or on a closed course, or in a very deep, very tracked method. It pulled in to a parking lot that is not standard. I mean, it pulled in with a parking lot with people and cars, and it picked me up, and it went through the parking lot and got back onto the road, and then out to the
Wow.
highway, and merged, and was like, uh, I mean, it got around people, and it was insane, Kevin. It was insane. If you're in the Phoenix area, I think it's called like Waymo,
Yeah.
something like that. That's real life right now. We have driverless cars in the public. And then with the agents, like I said, I know we're up against time, but like we could talk about this for days. But the AI agent, start looking at that, start following that, because that's a practical things happening with AI. ChatGPT, DeepSeek, these deep learning things, their query response. Hey, tell me about this. Give me this, and it's very much a transactional thing.
Right.
These AI agents are workflow, to where you can say, every morning at 5:30 a.m., I want you to open up Chrome, and I want you to search for astrophysics news and websites and articles and blogs, and I want you to take the top 5, and I want you to digest them in this app, and then I want you to email me and 3 other people that digestion of that, and then I also want you to do a voice recording of it, and text that to me every day at 5:30. And that those things happen now, because it's like, I want you to do step, and then step, and then step, and then step. That, I think, is what's going to change us, because now you can integrate these forensic collections. You can put an agent in your client's company and say, hey, periodically, I want you to go out and find everything that's related to malicious content, or bankruptcy, or whatever these terms and conditions are, and I want you to package them up. Then I want you to alert this person and alert me, and then I want you to upload them to AWS's S3, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You now create these AI agents, with natural language, and that's the key. I don't have to know Python. I don't have to know C or C++
Yep.
or whatever. So that's probably. I mean, I don't know if it gets any more awesome than that when it's actually doing stuff. So
It's crazy because imagine if you had AI watching your network, you could help reduce at least some of the intellectual property cases, or when you could see something when it's happening live. That'd be bizarre, right? I use again, not even close to what we just talked about, but I have a networking system here in the house, a brand called Ubiquity, and they have multiple things. They have networks, camera systems, which also hooks into my automation. We were talking about Home Assistant. It interconnects with all of that, and entry points. It fires off automations. It's freaking amazing. They just added all of the AI components to the standard home one, which I have. Well, it's kind of like a prosumer, not like top of the line stuff. Very really affordable. But if I'm looking at my video and I'm going to go, hey, when did my son Riker show me all the times when he came home? I can type that, and it'll find on that video across all of those times. That's doing that
yeah,
like right now, and I'm like, holy
yeah.
crap!
So take that. We'll drive it home with this point. Take that concept and apply it to finding data within your data set.
Yeah,
Hey, find everything that's related to this business deal. Prioritize it with positive stuff to negative stuff, or negative to positive, however you want to sort it, or relevancy sort. And then through natural language, it's going to go through all that stuff and pull that data and be like, hey, I think this is all important to this deal, because this document is the deal, and then here's an email regarding that document, and here's some text back and forth regarding that other document, here's a voicemail. It'll pull all that information together for you, so that now you can look at not just keyword search, right, which is the name. It's pulling all these relationships amongst these data elements, which give you a broader sense of what your data really has in it. That's what we do with the AI and eDiscovery, right? It's taking that kind of natural language and magic. It's pulling all that stuff back for you. Now, when you verify it, that's a human element. When you say, yes, you got it right, or no, you didn't, it updates itself to get better and better and better. So that maybe your first query, your second query, it's not going to be the best it can possibly be because you haven't told it yet. You haven't kind of said, hey, you, bad you. But that's where we're at. If anyone, listening now or in the future, like you said, when it's nice and toasty outside and we got shorts and tank tops on, if they want to see any of this stuff work, or if they want more information on how we specifically do it and how we collaborate with forensic investigators or with law firms, hit me up, esi@indexed.io. You can go to our website too and reach out. There's a contact form on there. I think we have contact stuff on your stuff too, Kevin.
In the Social Hub. Yep.
I love talking about it. So any way we can help folks get value and take kind of the next steps into the space, we all win. We all win as an industry. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And if you're watching this later, I'm going to put all of the links to the sites in the show notes. So you'll see them there. I probably won't put the email just for kill crawlers, you get spammed all the time using AI, of course, but you still get spammed. So Brian, thanks so much. I looked at the time here. We were worried about like, hey, we're going to be able to fill a half hour. I'm like, it's now been an hour and 12 minutes and I still want to talk more to you, but I want to respect everyone's time as well. So great. I really appreciate hanging out. I'd love to have you back on and we can dig down into this a little bit more and talk some more advanced stuff even.
Maybe I love the webinar on the rapid miner. Maybe you can do a poll to your folks and see if that's something that's has interest, and if it is, like we can go through it. It won't be an hour and 12 minutes. I promise you, it'll be something more realistic. But I would love to show folks and introduce folks to that tech as well. So
yeah, I think if it's in a context that relates to what they do day to day, right? Whether it's eDiscovery, whether it's OSINT, whether it's digital forensics, doesn't matter. Searching through or makes their job easier, they'll absolutely. I can answer that question for you now. 100%. They'll want to see something like that.
And I'll throw the challenge out, and you may decide to edit it out in the future. But if there's a forensic team out there that wants to collaborate, I think that would be a better webinar to kind of say, okay, yes, they collected the data and they did this, and these are the steps. What elements can we put into something like Rapid Miner to give you insight, like real world stuff? Because then we take it from there. And what do I do with the next steps? So I'll challenge anyone out there that wants to throw their hat in the ring, and you don't have to know Rapid Miner. I'll help you with that. But if you want to kind of take real world kind of collection data and go from a start to finish, that may be kind of fun.
Heck yes. That's awesome. That's awesome. I know Jared's in the group. He's probably listening to this conversation right now. I'll introduce you guys later. But so hey, it may be something for sure. So again, man, thank you so much, Brian. I think that'd be a great webinar. I think it'd be better also as a panel on one of our summits, maybe, is to have you as one of our panel guests and maybe some forensic people on there and kind of just hash ideas live as it goes back and forth. I love watching the spontaneity of people's creativity of how this stuff can be used and make the industry better.
I'd love to. Yeah, let me know. Give me the details.
We'll make it happen. Trust me. Now Megan's sitting here in the background going, oh no, he's giving me more work. Sorry. Yeah, we got you. All right. Hey, don't go anywhere. I'm going to figure out the right button to push. Okay. I think I got it right here. Hang out right here. Been awesome having you. Like I said, if you guys need to get in touch with them, head over to index.io. It's in the chat. You can scroll. YouTube likes to take our chat away initially, and then it'll put it back up later. I don't know why they do that, but they do. But I'll make sure I put it down in the show notes as well. Till then, thanks everybody so much. We'll see you. We're going to keep doing these podcasts every week now. I'm back and committed, making sure it's going to happen. And look for that webinar that Brian's going to be doing, because I'm stoked about it now. I'm all in. Let's do it. All right, Brian, thanks very much.
Thank you.